Good morning.
Good morning.
The Course in Miracles, which is a group that meets here, study group that meets here every week. The Course in Miracles teaches us that everything is a choice, either for God or for the ego. When I first heard that or read that several years ago, I didn't understand it because I thought that everything was God. And if everything's God, that must include the ego. I've since learned that that kind of thinking is really just what the ego uses as a defense against God. God and the ego are totally different. One is pure spirit, the other is an illusion. God created us as an extension of itself. And as such, we are pure spirit, just as God is. As an extension of God, we can never leave our source. That's the good news. The bad news is that we believe we can. And because of this ability, we believe in separation. We created the ego to fill that longing within us that is created out of our belief in separation. The ego is our creation. And like us, with God, it never leaves its source. Its source is our mind. Mind creates the ego and all of its components, like the physical world. The ego and its components is an illusion. The Hindus knew this, the Mayans knew this. As a matter of fact, Maya is a word that we associate, it's a Hindu word that we associate with illusion. And it really means lack of knowledge. Now this illusion thing is not an easy theory for most of us to accept, since this physical world feels very real to us. I've lost my place here, and my mind was about 5 sentences ahead. It's not actually our belief, pardon me, the physical world feels real to us, but it is actually our belief in its solidity that makes it real, and not the other way around. Earlier this year, I decided to test this theory regarding ego versus God. I wanted to know how often I made ego-based choices versus God-based choices. Now, it would seem on reflection that we would never do that, right? But it's truly amazing just how often our thoughts turn to judgment, competition, anger, jealousy, fear, without ever suspecting that these are our choices that keep us separate from our true identity, which is God. So this summer, during my testing, it took me a while, but I eventually started recognizing ego thoughts almost as soon as they appeared. But then I had a lot of help. Each morning in meditation, I'd have a conversation with Holy Spirit. This is the voice of God that we carry inside of us, that never leaves us, that it's always accessible. I think of it as my higher self, and that's an easy translation for me because Holy Spirit and higher self have the same initials, so I get to shortcut it in my journal when I'm doing HS said this and so forth. This summer has been the most joyous of my life. Trouble-free, peaceful, and absolute first for me. And I know that I have Spirit to thank for all of that. In meditation, I'd ask the Holy Spirit to walk with me through the day, to guide my hands in my work, to monitor my thoughts in particular. Another project this summer was I taught myself some new jewelry skills, some new jewelry making skills. My goal was a 3-stage process, and it was full of trial and error. lots of trial and lots of error. It was a long, time-consuming, and not always immediately rewarding. It never occurred to me to stop, however. It never occurred to me to criticize the process. It never occurred to me to get frustrated or angry or despondent. And I believe that that was because the Holy Spirit, my higher self, was my constant companion. Finally, after months of work, I completed all the learning steps. I was finally able to make my desired product from beginning to end and appreciate what I had made. I had met my goal. I was done. And I woke up the next morning almost in despair. My good mood was so low that I could barely get out of bed. I met a friend for lunch that day and told her how I was feeling. Her comment was that it was a typical feeling. All the joy that my project had given me throughout the summer was at an end, and it was this loss that I was feeling. I accepted her words. It was, after all, a universal belief. I decided it would just take time to get back to feeling good again. I took this universal belief to heart, determined to live through the slightly painful process of getting on with my life. But my friend's words kept echoing through my mind. The joy my project had given me. The words wouldn't go away. Because as a Course in Miracles student, I believe that everything in the physical world is a product of my mind. And it never leaves my mind. It is an illusion, no matter how real I make it. As an illusion, my project had no meaning except what I gave it. Therefore, I could whine with regret that it was over, or I could get on to the joy of the next project. The only thing between me and feeling good was my ego attempting to keep me separate from God by making me believe in the importance of the project, the universal belief that we so often buy into. There is a choice, you see. The only value in any project is what I put into it. I could take the ego away and use what I'd learned to make me look better than anybody else, more talented, more competent. Or I could take the God way and use what I'd learned to find joy in the colors and textures, and joy in what others might see in it, and joy in perhaps their wearing it. My ego is a very real thing to me, most of the time, even while I know it is just another of those illusions that will eventually fade away when it no longer has any use. The most important thing I've learned this summer is not new jewelry making techniques. It is that the only value in anything out there is what I give it. And with the Holy Spirit, my HS, higher self, as my constant companion, the value will always be one of joy. Thank you.
Good.